Hey, Howdy. How you doing? I'm gonna lift this up a little bit. My head's chopped off at the top. There we go. There. That's nice. That's what we like. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. Just chilling out while we wait for CouchBot to fire. Hope you're doing well. I ended up producing that rant yesterday into a I'm calling it reloop or looped. Is it looped or relooped? I think it's looped. The whole idea is that there's nuggets of feedback loop that really kind of transcend beyond just like the daily feedback. And so last night, the rant was the third of that series. Going to be going back. We have now a year of footage, a year of content that I've been actively clipping from to pull out discussions that I've had with you, the student, over the past year that would be useful for other people, useful for other students. Some occasionally it's just me talking to a hot mic and saying what's on my mind, but most of the time it's strictly related to, hey, here's typographic combinations. Here's how to run that research a little better. Here's how to ask that better question. Maybe these color combinations go better together. Here's a little hint for CSS grid or something like that. So yeah. Anyway, know that more of those are coming. Yeah, the certificate versus the work discussion. If you see that floating around, give it a thumbs up or give it a share. I really think it's something that a lot of people need to realize that if you're a designer, you can always improve. You know, if you're having struggles with anything, nothing is set in stone in that, like, well, I guess this is as good as I'm ever gonna get, and I really want that to be, I want that positioning to be a hopeful tone, like, yeah, it's going to get better from here. It can get better from here, right? Regardless of what your current situation is, it could get better, and that's the whole point. That was the whole point of yesterday, even though I was a little ranty. Today I'm a little more hopeful, because I'm seeing such great work coming from all of you. Yesterday we spent some time with Katie, which, when I see people come back in, and life comes at you from different directions. Katie's going through a very awesome thing. Some of you are like, there's weddings and babies and new jobs, and these are all very things to celebrate, but they're also very disruptive. They're just as disruptive as layoffs and illnesses and other bad things. Just you're happier about them happening. So just know that everybody has challenges, and those challenges come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. And regardless of what yours happen to be at the moment, I hope you realize that this is a place where you can continue to grow and do big things, regardless of what your challenges are. And you're always going to have time, and you're always going to get feedback here. All right? And that was the whole gist of yesterday. Somebody was asking me about it, and I was like, well, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be negative or down, because I really do believe that designers, given the right amount of time and the right amount of feedback, the world is their oyster. You can always level up, and I think that's the same for anybody. I mean, it's like saying, oh gosh, I picked up the guitar once and I just can't play it. It's like, well, you could if you spend some time with it. You could fly that kite. Could draw that horse. Horses are really hard to draw, though. It's like the elongated face. I've always struggled drawing horses. Anyway, CouchBot's fired. This will not be something that we loop for later. We're just gonna get this right underway. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. We've got a couple things in today. Looks like we're living La Vida Figma. Yeah, that was weird. But we're living in Figma today with Luigi and Rebecca. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen and get this underway. That's Luigi's Google Doc. Where's Luigi's thingy? Oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, I am still actively going through and sorting through the Design Jobs channel, and Job Talk continues to get updates. Feel free to jump in there. I'm doing that for you subscribers so that you can get a heads up on what I think the best jobs are that are actually coming through. Just be sure to check out Job Talk. Even if you don't have time to go to the Design Jobs channel and see everything that's being posted, I'm always going to pull out the highlights and put them here for you. Over here we have Luigi. And Luigi has, let me hide my UI. Oh, by the way, yeah, I wanted to show you this. So last night I was going through and figuring out some quick keys for Figma, and I found one that I didn't realize existed. And it is this Option Command Plus. You see how it's like just making the interface gigantic? I didn't realize that you could actually alter the entire size of the interface itself, like the buttons here on the top, the layers to the sides, the styles, like all of that is Option Command Plus and minus. Minus shrinks it back down. I always thought it was like just kind of static and small and like that, and I never really thought much about it. But in figuring out some quick keys for other things, I found that one, and I wanted to pass that along because I know that not everybody has 20/20 vision, and you might open a tool like Figma and go, oh my gosh, that's super small. How can I possibly read what's in those two columns in those columns to the right and left? And it's just, oh well, Option Command Plus, and you can adjust that. And I realize it gives you a little less canvas, but Option / gets rid of those columns so that you can see what you're doing. And I think that combination, being able to grow it or shrink it as needed, and then getting rid of the interface so that you can just see the canvas, super helpful. Super duper helpful. So I want to point that out. You can also, you can drag this a little bit. Can't drag it all the way over, but just want to point that out. Anyway, Luigi, I'm going to hide my interface. Luigi is here, and he's been working on, he's got his homepage, and again, I really, really love this Mackinac typeface. I love the color combinations. I like his yellow, frankly, a little better than my new Pragmatic yellow. It's just got, it's a little more muted. It's a little richer, in my opinion. Mine is so like mustard yellow. It works really great with the green I have. I do not have this green, so from a tone perspective, I would have to alter my green, and I don't really want to alter my green. I love my green, and Luigi's green is nice too. It's got a little more blue to it, but he's working on his sign-in pages. So here's sign up, and kind of getting a sense of what sign up is like, and here's log in, and logins just like just kind of like you're on a page and it's a big modal. I am wondering if do we have an option that shows us, not that I think you have to test this out, Luigi, but do you have an option? I'm thinking about your future developers. Do you have an option that shows me what an error message is like if I didn't properly enter the password? Is that, because what I can't tell right now is it looks like it might show up underneath, but it also might show up out here, but it's kind of in this no man's land of, is there enough space below? Is there enough space to the side? I don't really know. Okay, so I would like to have a better idea of where an error message would show up in this instance. I do like the fact that we we get the we get some idea of like how it fills in. That's fine. Um, also like the fact that this is kind of a muted it muted green, indicating that hey, this isn't active yet. And then once these form elements are filled out, and then it becomes active. I think that's a nice little touch. Same thing here. If there was a password error, I'm guessing in this instance, because everything is kind of blocked off, it's probably showing up underneath, right? I would like to see it. I don't think that you actually have to use it in the interface, but you should have that thought out. Like, okay, so what is that error state like? And we've talked about that. We've talked about empty states. We've talked about error states. We've talked about feedback and when you get the feedback. So having that in the prototype somewhere, and this little bit of microcopy, this helper text that comes along with these error states is also helpful to, it's not just type. What does the type say? And you're going to have other instances where microcopy is going to come into play when you get over here into the shopping cart. And it looks like you've begun to put some work in on the shopping cart. I don't know if you're necessarily done, but it certainly seems like there's some movement happening over here. It doesn't seem complete, though. It looks like these elements are still in progress. Same for checkout, but it does seem like there's some work that's happening. Obviously, I think that it looks like you're still working on the cards, which is fine. Yeah, this is the stuff that we were doing yesterday. So, yeah, I think that the moves that you've made since we spoke yesterday, these are both very logical. I would just like to know what the error states are. And otherwise, full speed ahead. Let's get back over here to these. I really think that the menu page is pivotal, as is the cart and checkout. And then once you get that like nailed down, like wire it together and start running some tests on it. There's no reason to like overbuild, right? But at the same time, you definitely want to make sure that what you've built is logical and function. It makes sense to your testers. So I would say like, good job over here. Let's get back over here and wrap this thing up. Okay. All right. Rebecca's up next, and let's see here. Is this me? Yeah, I was doing some work last night on my project on Circuit, and Rebecca's in here, and she's got, let's see here, all the content is for the new site. Please make sure okay. All right, so you've taken this down. I think looks like this is coming down. What is this, like 54 or 6? No, it says it's still 60. Well, that looks like it's okay. Okay. You changed it from 72, but you didn't change the size. This should be just 60. Boom, there it is. Okay. Well, that certainly feels better than the 72 you had before. Looks like you're going with Montserrat. You've got this H2, H3. It's very logical stair-step flow. Get started, learn more. It's easy to see what your process is there. This feels a lot better. Why Supermelon was so overpowering last time. Transaction process, our blog. Seems like this is like two things. It's like our blog. I mean, it could be that's like why Supermelon. It seems like highlights from our weekly Supermelon is like a secondary. Like I don't want to like put words in here, but it's like, is it like that? Some sort of combination like that. It just seems like it seems like that's a tagline to our blog, not at the same level. So something that I would advise taking a peek at. Yeah, it looks like you followed that, which we talked about. Let's see what's going down here with this. Yeah, okay. So you went through and you kind of shrunk those down and gave it a little space. That's good. I also like the fact that you decided that on these pages you didn't want the big image. I think that's so much easier to design for. When you don't have to like say, okay, I'm going to put text over the top of every photo. That's like at some point you're going to get burned. You're not going to be able to find the photo that you need, or it's going to be one of those things where the client wants it to auto update and they change it later and then you can't read it and it's a big pain in the ass. So I would say, like, on the home page where you have control, great, but once you get outside of that, this is the design that I would like to see. Looks a little deep here. I have some concerns about whether this button's getting pushed off the page, which would be an issue. So something to look out for there. I'm always leery of super wide or super tall photos. So this is a spot where I'd be concerned, like, okay, what is that image? And you know, I see sell to a larger enterprise and Fortune 500, but that image is so wide. What is that image? You got to know what that image is before you draw boxes shaped like that. Okay. I do like the seller benefits. You mentioned like the question of, do you have blue icons? And I think the answer is sure. It would work well off the orange buttons. So I personally don't have a problem with that. I do wonder if it's that, is it that Supermelon? Is it a little dark blue? I don't know. The About Us, that makes sense. Highlights from the newsletter. So this gets you into like how that's going to display. So this is highlights from the newsletter, and this is popular headlines. Is there a view all? Is there pagination? Like, how deep does their newsletter go? Is it hundreds of posts? Is it dozens? I don't know. Is it 10? Like, maybe you only have one page. Maybe you have 10 pages. I don't know. This is where I would look at like some pagination down here, so that if the person wanted to go to other posts, they could. Supermelon Help Center. This is largely based on what we talked about yesterday. I think that makes a lot of sense. So in these services page and products page, so you come back, and I'm guessing these are two of the higher level pages. So you've come back and you brought back in these large images, which I think is fine. You know, overall, I think this is striking the right tone, Rebecca. I would look out for areas like this, where that intro is so long that I'm worried about this started getting pushed off the screen. I'm worried about areas like this where we got, you know, what is this image? What's coming in? And I think you got another one right here. Like, you actually might, images, offices, warehousing. Okay, so when this is copied, and when I see like the language copied over and over, I get worried about this. So I'd want to make sure we've identified like what's happening down here. These photos probably pretty easy to find. That one is gonna be challenging. Same thing here. I think you're probably okay. But you know, if anything, I begin to wonder, like, is this too heavy with images? Like, are we using too many? Should there be a page where there's just one main, and then you'd let the content breathe a little, rather than being so reliant on everything's got to have an image? Because at some point, when you roll the dice this many times, you're going to find a page that just, oh wow, there's no image for that. There's no image for that one thing. And then it becomes a question of, well, what do you do for the rest of it? So think about, and what I would challenge you to do is, like, what is a template that looks a lot like this that doesn't have any images down here. Like, what do you do? Do you just stack them side by side? Do you center them up? Like, do you have maybe an image or two as you go down the page? Like, think that through so that you have that option. Because right now, you know, I see this little icon thing, but everything kind of has this side by side image, you know, going that almost checkerboard like. I think you need to have an option in your quiver for what happens when I don't have access to the right images, so that you can switch really fast. That's the one piece that I think is really missing that you could use. And you have something like it here, but this is also the page that has that crazy wide letterbox photo that I'm like, I don't know if you're going to have anything for that. Okay. Guess what, folks? I think we've covered it. I do want to check and make sure that I've addressed the questions. Looks like Luigi is working on salad cards and customization pages today, which is good. Rebecca, typography sizes, feedback, images. Okay, so images you should be looking for. Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of went in there. You know, I think the sizing is fine here. I would really try to lock down what these two specific images are, being that they're so freaking wide. And then I would really encourage you to figure out like an option that wasn't so reliant on all of these, so that, you know, as you come in, the good news here is you've got content, but what's the image I have for safe transactions? You know, is that a Brinks truck? Is it is it guards? Is like what's the image that I'm using there? And the fact of the matter is, manufacturer verification. Like is that just a factory? Also, one thing I'll mention typographically, like you've got this paragraph text. You've got the label. This needs to like hit a different note, okay? And what I might suggest there is like, this is where an italic might be nice at 20. So you're coming in. It's like what it is, a little bit about it, and why it's important. And each of those is a different job. And then I got to tell you, this Get Started, it's super big. You know, this is where I think, you know, coming down with, you know, a secondary label, because these buttons, you're going to get started, get started, get started, get started. You know, is this more of a read more for each of these, and it's more of a label instead of a button? You know, payment and escrow, is that a bank vault? Is like, you know, it's save investment. So a lot of these images, I believe, are going to be representation. They're not going to be literal images that are showing the thing you're talking about. They're going to be abstractions. Okay, so you're going to have to abstract away and say, okay, so what kind of says that? When you're trying to brainstorm this might be a great place to do a word cloud, if you will. Like, okay, so payment. What are the things that all mean payment? What does escrow mean? What are some other words for escrow? And then begin searching for the terms that you're coming up with to begin generating image options for things like this. And again, this is a situation where if you can't find an image, like the route I would probably go is, let's ditch this design. Let's go with a one column or icons or big image, no images below, like some sort of alternative to what you have. Okay, so but I would definitely like land on the images before I say, okay, this is the design, and we'll figure out the images later. Like, find those images. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. I hope this has been beneficial for you. It's always beneficial for me. It's always a good time to spend some time looking at your design work, and I hope we can do it again. I'm meeting with several of you later today, but for the rest of you, I hope to see you next time. right here in